biometric and the rest of that. You will see a sizable number of the eligible voters registering in the southern part of Nigeria subjected to actually use that biometric in that sense, compared to the number of those, that are being made to use it in northern part of Nigeria. So they go manual in most northern part of Nigeria, allowing the old trick of writing results, stuffing ballot boxes. But with technology in this sense, right? If the card reader can't read you in that sense, that means you can't really vote. So their own argument then was, okay, what if when the card readers are not working, does that mean that millions of people are going to be denied? So this is why the mixture of two systems in Nigeria, right? They know about it, so because it works for them in that regard, right? So they continue to make laws that allows that flexibility, which in itself is the real corruption in their elections. So if that is actually fixed, where there are no saboteurs sabotaging the system during elections, like those ones that will make some certain voters' cards just like never to work, and it's deliberate. And some areas where they are going to make sure that the election materials gets there so late, all deliberate. You know what I mean? So if you put technology into it and you indeed wanted that to happen, there is no point in agreeing on something and then changing it in between the time of passage. Normally, right, the lawmakers were expected to actually debate it on the floor of the House or the Senate. So everybody would then probably have the voice vote or individual vote on it before it can pass. So they tricked them into going into executive session. Executive session means some certain guys among them will go into a room. They will talk to themselves, arrive at some kind of like, compromise, and then come out and announce it to the rest of their colleagues. And they will just do a voice vote of the ayes have it. And the issue is that the electronic transmission of results is not new to your electoral act. It was there in your 2022 act. The bone of contention and all these public hearing, debates, committee, this and that, all this why was to ensure that when they amend it this time, they must make sure that it is mandatory and also remove the power of INEC to decide which one they want to use. So any election conducted without this particular law is going to be voided by the courts. Or if you say INEC have the power to decide which one they want or not, that automatically gives that power to INEC and not to the courts, according to the law. But here is Yinaya Abaribe and others like Ireti and other opposition senators saying what they agreed to was to leave the electronic transmission of results in that section. Then what else did you do? Because it shouldn't just be electronic transmission because it's already there. What is the amendment? Did you put mandatory? You should listen.
Before you are distinguished senators of the Federal Republic, and this is those who are among those who are very concerned about the reports in the media that we have all seen, and the media has been awash with it since yesterday. So we felt, those of us who are still around, that it would be necessary to make a clarification of what happened yesterday, to put the records straight. Yesterday, the Senate did not, I repeat, did not pass transfer of results, which was in the 2022 Act. what we passed, and which the Senate President himself, when he was doing a clarification sitting on his chair, is transmission of results. And I need to make this very clear. Every one of us who is a senator, who has the privilege to represent a senatorial district, came here under the trust of their senatorial zone. And each one of them imbues in himself or herself a public trust, a trust that has been handed to us by Nigerians to do the absolute best for Nigeria. And when it now appears that we have been misunderstood in any way, that's why we said we will come here, each and every one of us this morning, including those that are not here, a vast majority of the senators, to say that this is exactly the process that we passed through to get to this point. First, there was a joint committee of both the Senate and the House, made up of members of the electoral committees in both chambers. These joint committees had several retreats, both in Abuja and elsewhere. And each of those retreats was done with both INEC and the CSOs. Everyone agreed at the end of the retreat that electronic transmission of votes was the way to go. And that was reflected in the report, both in the House and in the Senate. Now, there was public hearing, there was everything, and this was what they would say, sine qua non. Nothing else but that. And I think the Senate President reiterated it yesterday, that the committee report was brought. The Senate also set up an ad hoc committee to review this report, electoral report, and report back to the House. And it was the report of that Senate, of that ad hoc committee led by Senator Adegbomire, that we considered when we went into a closed session. And the reason for us to go into a closed session was so that we can tidy up all the niggling things inside there. And when we now come back to plenary to pass it, that we will pass it without any rancor. I can assure you, on my honor and the honor of all of us who are standing here, that both the Electoral Committee of the Senate, then the ad hoc committee of the Senate, and also in the executive session that we had, that we all agreed on section 63, which is electronic transmission of votes, or electronic transmission of results in real time. I think 65, or I think I have it here. I'm going to bring it when we finish and distribute it to you, what we passed. Now, at the plenary.
This is talking about. So Abaribe, right? And these people are mostly of ADC now, by the way. So people are not saying there is no electronic transmission of results in the electoral. So Akpabiole said you all went into executive session, and what you agreed on, according to even what this senator just said, right? Abaribe, you are kind of like making it look like you guys are just like you just passed the electronic transmission of results for the first time. They continue to remove the real demand, which is the mandatory. Okay, the mandatory, which is like INEC would have no choice. Tinubu wants to pay them 1 trillion naira. Do you know that's how much they want to spend on 2027 elections? I don't even know if they have if they have presented their 2027 elections budget yet. Tinubu has allocated 1 trillion naira to INEC. Are you aware of that? So this is the controversial section 5. Yeah. And then 6 is the red circle, red mark area, right? Then you see the one that is next to it, a presiding officer who willingly contravenes any provisions in this section commit an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not more than 500,000 naira or imprisonment for a term of at least 6 months. So the presiding officer shall transfer the results, including total number of accredited voters and the result of the ballot in a manner as prescribed by the commission. That's the problem. Do you get me now? As prescribed by the commission. If INEC chooses to use manual, even if you all have digital DATs, do you get me now? Manual it is. And whatever result they announce, you can't take it to any court because this section empowers INEC to decide how the election will be conducted, how the election result will be transmitted or announced and all of that stuff. Do you feel me? So that's the bone of contention. But the likes of Abaribe, they are making it look like, oh, the headline says INEC rejects electronic transmission of results. No, INEC rejects compulsory electronic transmission of results. What is he saying? Abaribe.
And people talking. So it now seemed that something was wrong. We went back individually to find out from what exactly was done, and we were reassured. And the Senate President, while sitting, and I'm sure you have the videos yourself there, confirmed that we passed the electronic transmission of results. And I will show you what we have here. Now, the Harmonization Committee was set up also yesterday because when the House version and the Senate version differ, because there were so many other things, including timelines, that now differ. You set up a harmonization. Those harmonization is what you use to make sure that you come to one single document which the president will now sign. So that is where we are at the moment. But I need to add one further thing so that Nigerians can rest assured. After our session, plenary session yesterday, we adjourned, but did not come back to pass the votes and proceedings. And that is our rule, and you all who are here, you know it. The Harmonization Committee cannot meet because the document that we use to go to the harmonization is the document passed by us and ratified by the votes and proceedings. So there's still one more step left by the Senate to take. After we pass the votes and proceedings, in which we are going to insist and ensure that what we passed, which is electronic transmission, is there, then the harmonization will meet. What now happens in harmonization is simple. You either adopt the House version or you adopt the Senate version. And of course, Nigerians know what they want. It is the job of Nigerians also to put pressure and ask questions from their representatives. My own representatives in Abia South Senatorial Zone have been sending me messages since yesterday, And I'm sure it is the same for each and every one of us. Asking questions. All our constituents have been asking questions. And we're telling them, no, this is what we passed. We passed electronic transmission of votes in real time, of results in real time. And that is where we are. I hope this clarification settles this matter. And I can tell you that it's not just the number here. A great majority of the senators are with us across party lines. Because this is not a party matter. This is a Nigerian matter. Fair, transparent, and free elections and election processes are the underbelly and the ground of democracy. If your results are not transparent, if whatever you do is not fair, if whatever you do is distorted in any way, then it's not democracy. So we are here as Democrats, as people who insist on the right thing to be done, to say that this is where we stand. Thank you.
Just in addition, Chairman, just in addition, I remember.
So, what Abaribe, to my own understanding, what Abaribe is trying to explain to us now is that what they have right now is not really the final, okay? That the rumor of maybe they have inserted something or they have removed something will still be, checked and verified during harmonization. Harmonization is that when everybody will now look at it and all, These guys hijacked, somebody just commented that, they hijacked the tax law. And the controversy around that is that the tax law signed, the one passed by the National Assembly, signed by Tifnumbu, is so different from the one they gazetted that they want to implement. And that controversy around that, they've danced around it, and right now, there is no headway. Because Apadiole and his crook in the National Assembly, they have a way of perfecting their insertion in a way that they can cover it, and they keep covering it in that sense. So a lot of people are saying if they get away with this manipulation by telling people that there is nothing to worry about, e-transmission is still there, and they can decide to use it or to not use it. They will deploy propagandists to start gaslighting you, to tell you that that's not a big deal. And so these people just they shout opposition. They don't get any reason or any excuse because they know they are going to lose. But these are fundamentals of what should give credibility, legitimacy to, even to call you if he manages to organize a free and fair election in that sense. No, the CSO's reaction. This guy actually was very much involved too.
I think what the Senate has done by this act is to betray the trust of Nigerians. And not just betray the trust of Nigerians, is to make rubbish of all the gains that we've made. Because what happened today is a regression and a dangerous retreat to some of the lofty reforms that were introduced by the 2022 Electoral Act. The Senate President, I completely disagree with the Senate President. He's just being clever by half. Because what he is saying is that the ruling of the Supreme Court in the 2023 elections, they were very clear that electronic collation or transmission was unknown to the law, that INEC cannot, by virtue of its guidelines, introduce electronic transmission, and the IREF, it's clear. And so what the National Assembly did, particularly the two committees in the National Assembly, was to take that judicial pronouncement and update the law, because when the extant law says it shall be by a procedure determined by INEC, INEC went ahead in its guideline, determined the procedure, but the court now said, no, you have to insert it in the law. Okay. And the report before them, because I was part of the technical committee that was part of this entire process, what the House passed was that electronic transmission will be part of this process. In fact, the report also mentions the IREF. So I think that the Senate President is lying to Nigerians because that's not what was provided in the report. It was clear, electronic transmission of result. But that's not also the only thing. One of the things that the Senate has also done is introduce some draconian provisions that will undermine the preparations for the 2023 election, especially logistics. What they have done, they've compressed the time frame. The reason why the 2022 Electoral Act provides that 360 days issue notice, campaign